Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Mo Show Live. I'm really excited about another show here we've got today. Our guest today is in an area that I really love and have a passion for. A lot of you that know me know that I am really passionate about sports, and in particular college sports. And today's guest fits right in that wheelhouse. And, you know, for a lot of you that may know me, that I play college sports, and college sports, there's just something about the passion and the excitement of college sports that, in my opinion, professional sports can't match. And I'm a big believer in the lessons that athletics teaches and learns from a professional standpoint. And that's where, today's guest comes in. I think there we go. There's Coach. And so we may be having some difficulties here with the connection feed, but we'll do as best we can, folks. But today's guest is University of Alabama in Huntsville men's basketball coach Lennie Acuff. Let me tell you a little bit about Coach Acuff and his background and his career. Coach Acuff has been coaching for men's basketball head coach for, I think, around 27 years. He's been the head coach here at University of Alabama in Huntsville, as we call it, UAH, for the last 20 years. Coach had a really big milestone this year. I happened to be at that game where he won his 500th game. So he's won over 500 games in coaching, which is just phenomenal. And just to tout some of his teams and their success in the last several years, they've won 8 Gulf South Conference regular season titles, 3 Gulf South Conference tournament championships. I got to see this last one. It was really exciting. They've been to 10 trips to the NCAA tournament. And, Coach, if I'm not mistaken, 5 out of the last 7 years, your teams have reached the Division II Sweet 16. It's my pleasure to welcome Coach Lennie Acuff. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm enjoying the view. You guys are the ultimate downtown office. I'm liking we're on the square. I'm uptown now.
Well, we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. I know, when you're head coach at a school like this, you've got a lot on your plate, and taking time out to be with my audience and share a little bit about UAH and about basketball and about Division II sports in general. I really appreciate that. To kind of give my audience, I kind of want to give them a flavor. So I had the pleasure this year of attending almost all the home games and traveling to a couple of the conference games down in Birmingham. Folks, this is fast-paced basketball. It is action-packed. And so what I did get in preparation for today's show, I took a little look at the NCAA.com's website and looked for some statistics. And according to what I saw, Coach, you guys averaged 85 points a game last year. You were number 4 in the country in three-point field goals made, and number 9 in the country in free throw percentage, 78.5%. So it's pretty strong numbers there, Coach.
Well, we have really good off years, and I think if you can score the ball, I appreciate your support. I think our style of play does attract people. I think they enjoy coming, and there's a lot of people that have, over the past 20 years, when they've come once, they say, hey, I'm coming back. And we've kind of found the niche in the community. We found the niche with the kind of players we recruit and our style of play. So it has been a lot of fun, and we really feel thankful and blessed for the opportunity.
Yeah, and, what I thought I would like to do is kind of let the audience know a little bit about Division II sports and what's the difference between Division I and Division II? If somebody out there is familiar with turning on the TV and seeing SEC or maybe ACC basketball, what's kind of the big differences there? That if you're, kind of had to explain to somebody in just a little quick overview, what's the difference there, Coach?
Well, I think in terms of basketball, which I'd like to think I've dealt with a good bit, is the size. A lot of times, the bigger players end up at Division I. 6'10", 6'11" kids, you don't run into much of that in Division II. I always felt like there's not much difference in the guard play from Division I and Division II. We've had some of the best guards in the country the last 9 or 10 years, and I felt like a lot of those guys could have played anywhere in the country. Also been blessed with some guys good enough to play at a high level, but if you just look at the mass numbers, most times there's going to be a little bit more length, a little bit more size around the goal, a little bit more physicality. But there's so many different layers to Division I and Division II. Everybody thinks Division I, they think of the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the Pac-12. Well, there's a lot of levels below the BCS level that are considered Division I that, quite honestly, aren't a whole lot different from Division II. In Division II, there's different levels of Division II. There's 360 Division II schools. There's probably 30 or 40 of those schools that play with any of the lower level. There's just not much difference. But, that's what people try to the point of the kind of program. The only difference in Division I and Division II for us is the number beside our name.
Yeah.
We say make the time, and that's kind of our philosophy. We really try to create an environment that's with the kids play visual.
Sorry, we're having a little bit of a delay there, Coach. I'm sorry about that. So, I gather that, a lot of the difference there is you're saying size and types of recruits. And certainly I think, a lot of people that follow college sports can see a big difference between, maybe the Power 5 kind of teams and then the lower level teams. And one of the other differences that, I think sticks out for me, Division II sports and basketball in particular, is there is no 1AA in basketball. So, football, you have Division I, Division II, Division I AA, and then Division II in football. But in basketball, it's just Division I and Division II. So, I imagine you get a lot of those people who may be tweeners that might in football might have been a Division I AA, or maybe they want to play at a better Division II school that'll come play for, a perennial top 25 team like UAH, as opposed to maybe going to a lower Division I school.
A lot of times those kids can do that because you're immediately able. The kid transfers from a Division I to that Division I institution. He can transfer down to a Division II school without having to set out. If they go to another Division I school, they have to set out. We've kind of built our program more some high school kids. We've been a little bit different than a lot of the people in our league. We have been fortunate the last 3 years to have 2 transfers over that time, Preston Herring and Brandon Roberts, one from Austin, one from Sanford, that have really helped us. But our philosophy has been more in line with our school, is taking more high school kids that want to come to us out of high school and are willing to redshirt.
Yeah. So, Coach, when you kind of leading down that road, then when you talk about recruiting for Division II sports, are you've been able to build, when you build, a really rich tradition like you have at UAH in the last 20 years, where's your net? Where are you casting that net when you're looking for players? Is it more here in the Tennessee Valley area?
Well, for us, you want to do a good job at home. You want to make sure you take care of the schools in your area. But for us, a lot of times it's a different dynamic. A lot of times kids from around here are more interested in going off to school. When we first got here, we had to establish some credibility and become a little bit more attractive to the local kids. Now, over the last few years, we have been able to recruit better players from this area. We have had a product that I think attracts those guys. A lot of that, honestly, has a lot to do with the growth of our school going from more of a commuter school to a residential institution. And our president, Dr. Bob Altenkirk, has done a great job with that. He's really building the campus life, and that makes it more attractive to kids. But we really try to go out and find the best kids that fit what we do. Last year in Alabama, we only had 2 out-of-state kids on our team last year, one from Memphis and one from Louisville. Well, this year we signed 5 kids, and they're all out-of-state. And so it just varies year to year, just what's our fit, what's our need. And, we want to find kids that we think have a chance to really be a good player on down the road.
And along those lines, I'm curious, Coach, for when you guys are signing kids, how many athletes are you allowed to have on scholarship per year at Division II basketball? And are these full scholarships? Or are you giving partial scholarships? How does that work?
That's a great question. Here's the first difference in Division I and Division II. Division I men's basketball, they have 13 scholarships. It's 13 full scholarships. So if a kid is on a basketball scholarship at a Division I school, it's a full basketball scholarship. There's nothing else involved. There is no partial scholarships. In Division II, we have 10 full scholarships, and we can split those up, and we usually split those up among 15 or 16 kids. But if a kid is a great student, like we signed 4 kids this year that had over 30 on the ACT, so they come in with their tuition paid for. And so what we kind of try to do is meet the remainder of their need. But our ability to recruit really good students helps us stretch our money. And so for us, and we also have several walk-ons. Like this year, we'll have 20 kids involved in our program. And so we've got 4 kids that'll be true walk-ons, and there's 16 kids that get some type of financial aid. But I call it the baseball model. It's what division baseball does. You split the scholarships up and try to do as much bang for your buck as you can.
Okay. Well, Coach, I want to thank real quick some of the folks that are joining us: Nick Rishwain, Andy Seja, Erica James, Will Pollant, Holly Dean, Larry Weinstein. We've got several people watching us, and I really appreciate everybody doing that. You know, when you're recruiting at this level, do you talking about the school, I think it'd be interesting to kind of let our audience know a little bit about University of Alabama Huntsville, UAH, kind of what. When you're selling the school, when you're selling trying to recruit a kid, I'm sure you're not only selling your, the program, the basketball program, but you're also selling the school and what the school has to offer. So tell our audience, hey, what about the great secret we've got going on here at UAH in Huntsville?
Well, when I came here 20 years ago, our enrollment was roughly 5,000 students. A year from now, we're going to go over 10,000. And our administration has done a great job of really building enrollment. They've done a good job of understanding the dynamics that it takes to bring in the right kind of kids. So when we're recruiting kids to our school, first thing we sell obviously is our academics. We have a tremendous academic reputation. Our kids that graduate, we have the highest starting salary in any school in the state of Alabama. Of any college in the state of Alabama, our graduates start on the average is the highest salary in the state. We're able to sell the education. We also sell the town. What a great place to live. You and your family made this home for a decade or so now, and you understand the quality of life here is really good. And the beauty of Huntsville is plenty big enough to do what you want to do, but it's not so big that you can't get around. The infrastructure allows a good way to be able to get around. Maybe not where you're living right now, but for the most part, are the people that planners around a long time ago were ready for. And so we sell the town, we sell the school, we sell the education, and we sell the quality of kids we bring in. We want to bring in the right kind of kids. That's what we want to be about. We don't want to shortcut at all character. I think when you start shortcutting character, you're going to have problems. And we really try to stay true. I tell our guys we never want to compromise what the school stands for. When we're recruiting, we want to make sure we're consistent with their values and with what they hold dear.
Yeah. Well, and I think, what you've proven through your track record and your team's track record is that you can hold that high moral standard and fabric and have the high quality academics and still have a successful program.
Well, we tried real hard. It's not necessarily the easiest thing, but just because it's not real easy doesn't make it right. We want to stand for what's right in our program, and me or anyone in our program is not perfect, but we should try to do the right things and stand for the right things. And when the people that our administrators, our board members, and the people that teach at our school, when they come to the games, I want them to say, I'm proud of that kid, that he's in my class. I'm proud of the way that young man represents our institution. And because you're representing a lot more than yourself, you represent the school, you represent. And I just think when you start trying to compromise what the school stands for, it's going to get you in trouble.
Yeah, and I'll share with you and share with our audience that I remember a game this past year at the end of the season, a regular season home game, that you guys honored, I think it was at halftime, all the student athletes that had a 4.0 for maybe the past year or the past semester. And, Coach, I was getting ready to try to get up to go get a snack for me and my son, and that ran the whole length of the halftime. It was really impressive, not only for the men's and women's basketball teams, but for all the other athletic programs that you guys have, at what quality of students and how high academic esteem that they're, playing Division II sports and, getting a great quality education and getting it at a high level.
Yeah,
really
our coach did a really good job of going out and recruiting the right kind of kids. I think last year at UAH, the average ACT score for entering freshmen was 27.5. And so it's a very competitive academic environment. We tell our guys when they get their classroom, compete on the basketball court. You have to be really ready to go in and compete every day in class. And, all our coaches there have done a good job of staying consistent with the mission of our school.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, and tell everybody else, one of the other things that I was really struck by, a couple of things were, the crowd support. It looks like we have a lot of great community support. support here for the program and the students. I mean, you've got a really rowdy and fun student section at the games. It's always fun to see, what they're bringing to the table each game. And the other thing that really struck me this year, Coach, was the level of competition in the Gulf South Conference. Now, I'm not sure, and I'll let you address that as to, how that is year in, year out in the last several years. But my goodness, when those teams were coming into your gym, it was a shootout every night. Coach, I think we may be experiencing a little bit of delay here. I'm sorry about that. But, what I can share with folks is that, we have great crowd support, and it's really, an entertaining and ruckus crowds and inviting, and just a really good college basketball atmosphere, on a smaller scale. And it was really involved, a lot of crowd activity and high energy games that when I attended these games, that I was really struck by that when I went. And then, and as I was saying, folks, the other thing that really struck me was that the competition that UAH plays in what's called the Gulf South Conference, and it is a very, very competitive league, a lot of high-scoring games, night in, night out. And I was also struck by the level of competition, that there was a lot of great athletes and a lot of great scorers in this league. Coach, sorry about the technical difficulties there. We're having a little delay on the internet feed. But I was sharing with the folks about the Gulf South Conference and the level of play. It was just at a really high level. It really struck me this year.
Our league is really good. The overall league from top three every night. Everybody's got good players. And it's very comparable to a low-level Division I league. If you're going to you have to be competitive. It's a great brand of basketball. I think that's what people come out and watch the games. They had no idea the level of play. I had no idea it's good to play here. And so,
well, the other thing, I was wondering about, Coach, was, talk to us a little bit about especially with your level of play, the fast-paced level that you guys up tempo you like to play. We talk a little bit about and tell people a little bit about the training and conditioning, during season and off season, what's required for these players, and especially in basketball, maybe a little different than some people may know about than in football. Talk us a little bit about what it takes to be conditioned and to play at a really high-end Division II basketball program like UAH.
Well, I think you have to have a year-round commitment. We'll get to school next week. Our guys get here at the end of next week, and we'll go about a week to 10 days of school before we do much. But we'll start the week before Labor Day, and it's pretty much all out from that point on. We have kind of a preseason conditioning program that we get into on October 15th. We start practice on October 15th. We open up in Tampa on November the 11th, and then once we get through, we go right back into an off-season conditioning program. They're on from April all the way through August, and most of our guys have been here this summer with camp, and so they've either been in summer school or working camp and or both, and you really don't have any chance to be competitive if your guys don't work at it year-round. That's something I think when you're talking about being an athlete and compete at a high level, you can control your level of fitness. You can't control every night if the ball goes in. You're not going to have a great night every night, but there's no reason anybody should be more well-conditioned than you and more prepared than you.
Yeah. One of the things that I noticed too, Coach, that you do, and I'm sure it varies from season to season and team to team, but you seem to sub a lot, and that you really end up, playing a lot of players and pushing the pace the whole game. Is that something that's part of, your coaching philosophy, or is that somewhat dependent upon your players, I imagine? Can you speak to that a minute?
Probably a little bit of both. I think that it varies year. team, the better chemistry, the more the buy of it. And if we have 10 guys that we'll ever play, we'll be involved and it'll team on the floor, keep the first player on the floor. But that time you may not be that comfortable. You get down towards the end of the year when you start kind of coming down the stretch, you may shorten your bench a little bit. But we love it. We feel confident if we've got 10 guys that can play, we feel good about that.
Yeah. I really noticed that, you get down to the end of the last 5 minutes of the game, and that really, you could really start to separate you in a lot of the games because of the conditioning and the fact that you were able to rotate and play a lot of players, and that a lot of the other teams weren't as fortunate or didn't have that philosophy. And it's kind of, you start to pull away or be able to just, break away or make a little bit of difference there at the end just because you feel like you're in better shape or your kids have a little bit more left in the tank.
Well, we hope so. We try to sell that. We tell them to embrace it. I mean, that's the big thing. You got to embrace it. Part of your buy-in. That's a part of your culture, and it's got to be something that your kids believe in and are willing to work towards.
Yeah, well, and I think I didn't see anybody getting upset. It didn't appear to be anybody upset that they had to came out. They might have been playing well. You kind of have your philosophy, and people were coming out. They all seemed very supportive of one another, and the end goal being trying to win and have a positive outcome, regardless of whether it was Steve or Brandon or whoever was having a good game that game.
Well, ultimately, it's team, and we tell them that's the ultimate challenge is figuring out a way to do what's best for the team when it may not be what's best for you. I mean, that's the ultimate test of selfishness, and we preach that every day, and that's something but you have to protect your culture every day because it can get away from.
Well, to kind of follow up on that, Coach, curious that, now that you've had, a really good basis of success here in the last, 10 plus years or so, where, how do you build on that? How do you, get away from complacency and continue to build, the expectations and the successful path? One of the other successful coaches in our state, talks about the process, but how do you build that mindset so people, aren't complacent and don't get lackadaisical and keep pushing to get another Gulf South Conference title and to get not only to the Sweet 16 next year, but even further? Coach, I'm not sure if you can hear me or not, but again, sorry folks for the delays, but we're having some technical difficulties with some of the Wi-Fi here, and so, but one of the things when you're building a program like this and continuing a program in athletics, it's really important to continue that tradition. Coach, I'm not sure if you can hear me now or not, but
I heard you. I was going to make sure you were with me. I think the big, you've got to be, you can't ever rest on your laurels. You can't ever, it's just not going to happen by just wanting it to happen or just because it's happened in the past. I mean, we'll tell our guys in our first meeting next Sunday night that last year's behind us. It's over. That means nothing. We have a new team. We have a lot of guys back, but we're a new team. It doesn't matter. But the expectations don't change. The process doesn't change. It's just new guys trying to do that. But when you've had some success, you become the hunted, and you have to be your best every night. And anything less than your best is not going to work. And I think the biggest thing, a lot of times you can get comfortable and you can just assume you've been good for a long time. It's going to continue. You really have to fight humans going up against when you're trying to convince 18 to 22-year-old kids that, hey, just because we had a great year last year and we got several guys back, it's going to happen again. You just got to treat every year as its own different year. And the biggest thing, that's not getting ahead of yourself. I mean, we just say win the day. Let's just be a little bit better today than we were yesterday. If we can do that most of the time at the end of the year, we'll be where we need to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, having done this, 25, 30 years now, do you see a big difference in today's players, either in a motivational or getting them prepared to play, than you did, when you first started out? And then I'm also curious in those same vein, do you see a big difference in the skill set or the build of the players in terms of their athletic ability and that kind of thing?
That's a really good question. I don't see a lot of difference in kids' desire. I think the kids that we end up with are kids that have really been committed, that have made a long-standing commitment to be a good player. I think one of the biggest changes you see now is the way kids specialize in sports at an earlier age. That's very different than it used to be. So a lot of the kids we get have been guys that have just been playing basketball since the 7th or 8th grade. The game has changed as much as anything. There's not a lot of inside play right now, at least as the flow of the game. It's more of a open pace, 5 out, kind of everybody dribble, pass, and shoot. That's how we try to play, and it's been good for us. But the last question, the biggest thing I've seen in the last 20 years is the way kids have changed their bodies. Their commitment to in basketball, it used to be taboo to lift weights. And, that's when you're growing up. You don't want to get too big or too strong because you can't shoot a basketball, you can't hit a baseball. Well, now that's what everybody does. You look, those kids walk out there, and boy, they look the part. I mean, they're good-looking kids, and they really, with all the access we have to training and nutrition, you can see a big difference in their bodies.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, Justin, one of your players since last year, he looks like he was out of a Muscle and Fitness magazine. He's a stout kid and a good player for you down low and outside. That's one of the things that really struck me, too, is even your low post players like Kip and Justin and some of the others, they can still play out on the wing and shoot the three as well.
Yeah, actually, just all in Brazil, they won yesterday. They all three played well. They're on a Division II USA basketball team. And you're right, Justin looks the part, and he works at it, though. If you saw how committed he was to his diet and taking care of his body, it'd be no secret to why he looks like he does. And, and obviously he's kind of the ringleader of that, but we got a lot of other guys that have really made a big-time commitment to their fitness and how they eat, and they look like different kids than they did a year ago.
That's great. Well, Coach, I'd like to kind of, touch on something you just did to kind of, before we finish up, you've got children and kids. There's a big debate going on now is should younger kids, elementary school kids, middle school kids, high school kids, should they focus on one sport? I mean, have you got any thought about that? If you've got, I know you've had children that are just finishing up high school and doing, what would you say to parents that say, I'm getting pressure for my son or daughter for that matter to focus on softball or focus on basketball as opposed to maybe trying 2 or 3? Because I know 20 years ago when I was coming up, most kids, if you were a good athlete, you played 2 or 3 sports growing up.
Yeah, that's a great question. I've actually got both my children played high school sports. My son played basketball and baseball at Madison Academy. My daughter played volleyball at Madison Academy, and they were fortunate enough to be on really good teams and win state championships. And so it was a lot of fun for them. But I think that the way I kind of tell people is this: you have to let each kid run his own race. You may have a child that by the time they're 11 or 12 years old, they may really want to just commit to one sport. Now, I don't think that's the best case scenario unless they're a little bit of an outlier that, at 12 or 13, they say, hey, this is what I know I want to do and I want to go all in. I do think playing multiple sports helps kids. I don't think you should try. Now, the way things have gone for us now, sports, though, by the time it's almost impossible to continue to play through. Whether if you're a boy, ball back, almost impossible to get down to it. Leading my son in playing basketball and baseball all the way through high school. After his 9th grade year, he had to figure out which one he wanted to try to play in college, and that was one in the summers that he gave his time to. He wanted to be a baseball player. He plays baseball at UAA, and that's the one in the summer. So, it's a little bit of a phase-in, phase-out process, but I'm not a big fan, particularly at 9, 10, 11 years old, of a kid saying all I'm going to do is play sport X. I don't think that's healthy. I think there's really a strong chance of burnout. There's a strong chance of that kid when he gets to be 16, 17 years old, he wants it to be over. Well, that's when he should be walking through his competitive window. That should be the best time for him to be at his peak, not where he's wanting it to be over.
Yeah. And that's my thought. I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I've got a little one just starting 2nd grade here next week, and we're trying everything out and see what he fits him best and what he enjoys in doing. But if you've got someone like that maybe has a bent for one sport, even if he's playing multiple sports, but focusing on basketball, let's say, what advice would you give to parents or young men or young women that have an interest in basketball that think maybe I can play in high school, maybe even on at a collegiate level? What kind of drills and just best advice would you give them?
Well, I tell people, like the kids, that we have a big summer camp, and I tell all the kids that come to camp, the secret is there is no secret. There's no secret. You just work, and you figure out what works best for you, what gives me the best chance to improve, who gives me the best chance to grow under them as somebody I'm working with or somebody on my own. I'm not real big at 9, 10, 11 years old having a personal trainer and all those type of things. I think that's a little bit over the top. I think the biggest thing is if you really love something, you'll get better at it, and you're going to want to get up there and work on it. And there's enough things available to you and resources to you. You can figure out the right things to do, but have fun. I mean, I've never been very good at anything I didn't enjoy. And we have 3 things in the program. We say we want to make our program important, we want to make it fun, and we want to make it a vehicle for improvement. That's kind of how we build our whole thought process. And if something's important to you, you're going to try to do your best. If it's fun, you really have a chance to excel. And if you have those first 2, then you got a chance to grow.
I love that. I mean, those are great points, not just for sports, but for life. And, to kind of wrap up here, one of the things that I can speak to that sports really taught me, and I'll be interested to get your viewpoint to see, in 25 plus years of coaching, men's college basketball, have you seen your former players coming back and telling you that, coach, the lessons that I learned playing ball with you and my teammates really have set me up for success in life. I mean, in terms of putting in the work ethic, building work ethic, putting in the work, perseverance, teamwork, and stick to it. And all those things for me playing high school and college ball have really, helped me be a better person, helped me be a better father, husband, and helped me be a better lawyer. There's no doubt about it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I really am firmly convinced that if all we do is win basketball games, and we're really just wasting our time. I'd like to think that everybody in our program has a chance to grow, that they have a chance to be a better human being, they have a chance to be a more mature human being, that they have a chance to see life, not just in basketball. Now that nice, I'm actually kind of reading some notes and things that some of our former players have sent me. They mean more to me than they'll ever know. We actually, going into last year, in my 20th year, one of my former players, David Ivey, who was one of my former assistant coaches, put together a reunion, and we had, 55, 60 kids came back, and I don't know what that meant to me. And, and I used to hear older coaches when I was younger say that means the most to them, and I didn't really understand what they're talking about. But I'm really proud of the guys that have played for us, and we had one of them in our office today, and just to hear them talk about things, to hear them say I look at things a little differently now, and my goals have changed, and I'm at a different phase in my life, and here was part of that.
Well, that's really awesome. I know that's got to be, probably the most satisfying thing about your job is getting to work with young men and get to know them and watch them grow, not only during their time at UAH, but after as they go on to in a professional career and in their family life. Coach, to wrap up, can you kind of tell us when the season starts, and if people want to come out and watch you, kind of, what they need to do and how, if they want to get season tickets and that kind of thing, kind of tell us a little bit about when the season kicks off for you guys.
We get going our first 11th at Tampa. We're in a tournament down there. It looks like we're going to have an exhibition game that hadn't been announced yet officially, but it looks like we're going to play Alabama November the 6th in an exhibition game in Tuscaloosa. So that'll be, if that comes to fruition, and I think it's going to, that'll be a good night for everyone. And really a big night here in Huntsville is going to be December the 19th. Alabama's coming here to play Mercer downtown like they played Arkansas State last year. And we're actually going to play ahead of them. We're going to play a doubleheader with them that night. So that should be a really good night for basketball in our town. So we're excited about what's coming forward and looking forward to getting started. We'll get going, like I say, right around Labor Day with practice. And our official practice starts October 15th, and then we'll be playing basketball before you know it.
Well, that's great. That's really great for our state to have you guys hopefully play an exhibition game. I can share with everybody I went to the Alabama-Arkansas State game at the Von Braun Center here in Huntsville It was a sellout, a great crowd, and hopefully we can have another sellout there for your game and their game. And folks, so what I'm going to do after the show in the show notes, I'm going to put a link to the UAH Chargers website, the sports website, and a link to the basketball page if you want to find more information about the team and Coach Acuff and how to get tickets and then more information and how to support them. Please check the link below after the show, and we'll get that out for everybody to view. And again, I highly encourage you, whether you're here or wherever you may be in the country, if you're watching this show or watching this on recording, if you've got a local small school there. I played at Maryville College. I was talking with Coach before the show. Our program, our men's basketball program, women's basketball program, where I went was phenomenal. So if you've got a local college or university, go out and support your local college or university. I think you'll be blown away at the level of competition and athletes that are there that are not at Division I, but at the Division II level. And you may actually see some kids there that may actually go on to play even after that. So you might just be really surprised. But Coach, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Wish you guys the best of luck. And I know Wyatt and I are looking forward to coming out and watching you guys this year.
Okay, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.